Happy Monday, Striver. It's Valentine's Day. Oh my gosh. What a wonderful time to think about the relationship you have with the person you love the most, or the persons you love and appreciate the most. I love this day because you get to think about your partner or those who really bring joy and love into your heart. And whether you're single or you're a couple, whether you believe Valentine's a dumb day or a beautiful day, it's a great day to consider our relationships. And I'll start today with just a simple reflection of what we talk a lot about here at Growth Day, which is how no matter what people want in their lives, I've found that after we attain a certain sense of security in our lives or safety, we all want the same four things. We all want a greater sense of aliveness, greater connection, greater meaning and fulfillment, and greater growth. And the funny thing about all of those things is only one of those can give you all the others, and that's connection. So let me say those again. We all want a greater sense of aliveness. That's a sense of aliveness or vitality, passion, enthusiasm, excitement, whatever you want to call that sense of aliveness that says, I feel that vibrant connection with the joy and the health of life. You know, aliveness is energy towards life. We also want a deeper sense of connection with ourselves, but most importantly, connection with others. Why? Because our relationships are the single most important driver of our longevity and our lifelong satisfaction and happiness. I said meaningful pursuits or fulfillment. These are things that we go do in the world that we feel like they matter. They give us a sense of internal, intrinsic meaning and value way beyond the materialistic things of life. And then growth, that we want to continue feeling like we are getting better, we are mastering our lives, we are moving towards our more higher potential. But it's connection. Our relationships give us access to all of that. So I always think about Valentine's that no matter what, it's an opportunity to evaluate every relationship in my life. And yes, for me as a married person, I always significantly measure and think through the quality of my relationship with my wife. And so I'd love for you to do that today. If you are in an intimate or partner relationship with somebody, whether married or just dating, and you feel that deep connection with them, take a moment today to really think through that relationship. And when I say think through that relationship, think on three levels. Think of the other person, their satisfaction, joy, happiness with your relationship, of course, yours as well. And then gauge the health of the relationship, how you two interact together. Now, if you followed me at any given length of time, or you're new to the Growth Day community, you know that relationships we take on a lot. In fact, if you're a pro member and you really want to make this day special, go back to the Learn section, watch past events, and sort it by relationships. All 9 of our Growth Day coaches did a deep dive, hour-long training on the topic of relationships, and it's just such a powerful, powerful topic. I really love this conversation. And if you don't have access to pro members, maybe upgrade. Just to get access to that relationship training in itself is worth the entire year's upgrade. If you want to see a bunch of my thoughts on this, I'm sure you can sort my podcast or my YouTube for literally probably dozens and dozens of hours of relationship advice. Today, I'll take on 5 specific things. And I hope that each of these helps you in your relationship, at least as a category that you can measure and see whether or not you're happy with it. A couple ideal and simple ideas for a good relationship. Number 1, constant acknowledgement and appreciation. This is the hardest one because it's so easy to take people for granted when you're in a relationship with them over the long term, isn't it? You forget to acknowledge their thoughts, feelings, desires, dreams. You forget to acknowledge their own separateness in the relationship, the fact that they are have an individual identity with their own psychology, their own mindset, their own desires, their own will. And you forget to acknowledge those things sometimes because it's easy to get selfish and only think about what you want. And you forget to acknowledge them, listen to what they're saying, reflect back, to learn from them, to acknowledge them as a being, as a person who's separate from you and the relationship. Constant appreciation, that's another hard one because it's so easy to take people for granted. To every day, in some way, not just acknowledge someone, but give gratitude for them. Thank them for helping you. Thank for them for caring for the kids. Thank them for being in a relationship. Appreciate the little things that they do throughout the day to support you in the relationship. Appreciate the hardships and the way they face them. Appreciate how much they work and give and serve and love and lead and try. Those are things you have to call out and appreciate. You have to praise those things. You know, a lot of research shows that you have to praise your partner 5 times more than you speak of negative items or speak negatively with or to them. And that praise is a sign of appreciation, and it is a constant need in most relationships. Second, don't take everything so personally. You know, I think that's the first principle of the 4 agreements, if you ever read that book, and it's such a good one. Especially today, people are so offended by every other little thing, by every other person. And the more you are offended by every other thing, by every other person, the more you're struggling with your personal development and, frankly, maturity. The longer you're in relationships, the more you realize people have their own perspectives and that you can be empathetic and understanding with them, even if you don't necessarily agree. But you also don't have to hear everything as a constant threat. Everything they say is a threat to your identity or your knowledge or your skill or your ability or your genius or your goodwill. And a lot of people, man, you can't even have a serious or deep conversation or give them any feedback because they just get so personally attacked and triggered, not by what you said or did. That's just how they are. And if you've ever been in a relationship with someone like that, it's exhausting. So we have to always remind ourselves, don't take everything so personally. Everything your partner or spouse does is not towards you or aimed at you. In fact, they might even have their own lives. They might even be their own independent person. And I've always found the more a relationship can honor each one, yes, interdependently in the relationship, but more importantly, independently, to recognize each person and give them respect as a separate and whole and complete and good being, man, that makes everything so much easier. Third, you got to learn to argue. You know, conflict happens and you've got to take classes. You got to read books on relationships. Yes, both parties, not just the crazy spouse you think you have, but both parties in a relationship have to continually growing in the relationship, especially in how to have conflict, especially if conflict is a recurring pattern for you or a certain type of conflict is a recurring pattern for you. Then both of you got to listen to the podcast, read the books, take the workshops, do the courses, if you care about that relationship growing beyond what you're both currently capable of. You know, the truth is, just like anything in life, relationship is skill. You know, just like you have to learn to get better at any other skill or any other sport or any other craft, well, the art and the science of relationships takes a lot of work, doesn't it? And learning to argue, and I don't mean argue like fight and argue, I mean make arguments that one other can listen to, understand, absorb, debate openly, and do that without being hooked emotionally where you're constantly feeling like, you know, the other person's terrible. That's just learning to be in an argument, even when it's heated, to stay centered and grounded, even if you're angry and still there participating in a dialogue. That's easy. I don't make any of these, sounding like it's easy. I don't make any of these seem like everyone should get them perfect all the time. I don't even do that. And I've studied this stuff for 20 years. But you have to learn to do those things. Relationships are a skill. And if you don't love your relationship, it's time to start learning how to have one. Fourth, I believe that great couples also have a social life. Each individual in the relationship has friends and connections outside the relationship. And together, the couple also have a social life where they go out and see other humans, and participate socially together as well to create more of a holistic and whole-centered life in which both, at an independent level, each person has a social life, and interdependently, the couple has a social life. Especially these days, after the last couple of years we've had, I think that will be vital in keeping and maintaining the health of relationships. Many people lost their social life over the last 2 years, and those who pulled through, at least from coaching millions of people, those who actually pulled through during that time, they honored the first 3 ideas: constant acknowledgement and appreciation, not taking things personally, learning to be with one another and argue and work through difficult times together. And that really is the last point here, that it's been a couple tough years for people. So number 5, the idea, learn to work together. Work together as a couple to make the relationship better. Work together to support one another. Sit down on Sundays, talk through the week of what's coming, each of you knowing what's going to be the hard challenge that you're going to go through this week or the big goals you're going after, so that you're on the journey together and not totally separate. Because many couples never communicate what they're working on, what's important to them, what they dream of, what they're chasing, and also remain vulnerable with each other enough to say, hey, babe, I'm having a tough time. It's a difficult moment. I'm super stressed. I just want to let you know that I'm hangry right now. That level of communication to let the other person know what's up and where you're at is so important. These are simple ideas today, but the macro, the big picture is connection and relationships can vastly improve your life. And ultimately, that's one of the most important things we want in our lives. And so I'd share this last idea. Live with love at the forefront. You can have a loving presence and lean towards everybody you meet, even, yes, strangers, even people you have not met. You can have a loving intention for the world. You can have a loving mindset that everyone you deal with in your life, especially those who you deeply care for, you can wish them nothing but joy and health and abundance and progress and happiness in their lives. And I believe that the concept of love has gotten trounced so badly that very few people think about it. They're so focused on doing things, they're forgetting to being in love with the world, with other people, being in love with their significant other, and just going deep. Not playing a superficial relationship game with people, but deeply connecting with other people. That's the magic, isn't it? I hope you enjoyed today's Daily Fire. Do me a favor. If you're listening to this today, maybe hop into your journal or into the community, and please make a quick little post, like capturing in your journal or for the community if you want to share it openly with the community, and just share, what are your top 5 relationship ideas, best practices, strategies, or tips? What are your 5 tips on relationships? Because you know what? Yours will be different than these ones. And I've shared probably, there's probably 20 or 30 videos on me on the internet talking about different topics about relationships. There's, you could have 100 to-do lists and 100 tips and 100 ideas and 100 best practices. Who knows? But I'd love to hear yours. So go ahead and go into your journal, and if you just want to keep it for yourself and reflect today, or if you want to share it with other people, go into the community and just do a post. And hey, these are my top 5 relationship tips. I'm sure we could all learn from one another, and we'd be interested in doing that. Part of the magic in GrowthDay is this is a rare community of people who are really actually interested in improving our lives and sharing that journey with one another. You see it from our GrowthDay coaches every Wednesday when we go live, and you certainly see it here in the community as people share what they're working on, what they're learning, and their own tips and their own advice for how we can all improve. So please make a contribution today, or at least capture something in the journal, and then go have an extraordinary and loving day. You can always love others even better. And what a beautiful intention that is, and just reminds us that every day is a great day to grow.